All right, today we're going to dive into a piece of tech that did something pretty incredible. It took JavaScript, a language that was basically locked inside web browsers, and set it free to power a huge chunk of the modern internet. We are, of course, talking about Node.js.
For the longest time, JavaScript lived in this kind of gilded cage, the web browser. It made all our websites look amazing and feel interactive. But what if you could just unleash that language? Let it run on servers, in your command line, basically anywhere? Well, that one little question sparked an absolute revolution.
And Node.js is the answer to that question. At its heart, it's what we call a runtime environment. The easiest way to think about it is like a special bubble or a container that lets JavaScript code run pretty much anywhere you can imagine, from massive web servers down to your own laptop. This idea was so revolutionary, we're calling this whole story JavaScript's Great Escape. It's truly about how one of the world's most popular programming languages finally broke out of its traditional home. And this escape led to a really simple but incredibly powerful mantra: run JavaScript everywhere. For developers, this was a total game changer. All of a sudden, you could use the exact same language to build the pretty stuff a user sees, the front end, and all the heavy lifting logic on the server in the background, the back end. No more switching gears between languages. Just one unified way of building things. But this didn't just come out of nowhere. Node.js was actually born to solve a very specific and, frankly, a very frustrating problem with how servers used to handle all our requests. See, its creator, Ryan Dahl, was getting really fed up with something called blocking I/O. Now, I/O just means input-output. Things like reading a file or grabbing data from a database. Old servers handled this like a single-lane road. Each request was a car that had to wait for the car in front of it to finish its business completely before it could even move. It was slow. Node.js introduced a non-blocking model, and this is like a multi-lane highway with a brilliant traffic controller. Instead of just waiting, the server kicks off a task, like fetching that data, and immediately moves on to the next request. When the data's finally ready, a little notification comes back. It is just so much more efficient. And yeah, this new approach absolutely took off. It first appeared in 2009, and just 1 year later, it got its secret weapon, NPM, the Node Package Manager. Think of it like a giant public library of code that let developers share and reuse solutions, which just supercharged development. It expanded to Windows in 2011, and after some growing pains and community changes, it's now safely managed by the OpenJS Foundation, making sure it sticks around for the long haul. So how does this whole thing actually work? How does it run so fast? Well, to understand Node.js, you've got to understand its engine. It's got this incredibly powerful, high-performance heart. And that heart is the V8 engine. Yep, the very same engine that powers the Google Chrome browser. It's an insanely fast piece of software written in C++. And fun fact, Ryan Dahl actually tried using Firefox's engine, SpiderMonkey, at first. But once he tried V8, he never looked back. The job of V8 is basically to be a super fast translator. See, we write our code in JavaScript, which is pretty easy for us humans to read and understand. V8 takes that human-friendly code and, in the blink of an eye, compiles it down into low-level machine code, the raw ones and zeros that a computer's processor actually understands. And that translation is the key to its incredible speed. Okay, but here's a really, really important distinction to make. Node.js is not just the V8 engine. The engine is definitely the heart, but the whole runtime environment, the whole package, is what gives Node its real-world superpowers. So here's the difference. The V8 engine, all by itself, just understands plain old JavaScript. And by design, it has zero ability to, say, access files on your computer. Can you imagine the security nightmare if any website could just start reading your hard drive? So the Node.js runtime is like a special wrapper built around V8. It gives it a whole new set of tools, APIs, that granted these essential server-side abilities safely. And what are these superpowers? Well, they're the bread and butter of building anything on the back end, being able to make API calls to other services, connecting to a database to store and retrieve info, reading and writing files from the file system, and of course, actually creating the web server itself. These are all things that JavaScript in your browser is strictly forbidden from doing, but they are absolutely essential for building a real application. So let's bring this all together.
Why has Node.js become such an absolutely critical tool for millions of developers all over the world?
It really all comes back to that core idea. By letting developers use one language for everything, Node.js did more than just make life a little easier. It made building things faster, it made teams way more flexible, and it really paved the way for a whole new generation of apps built on a single, unified stock of technology. So think about it. By freeing JavaScript from the browser, Node.js completely changed what was possible. We've seen it power everything from massive streaming services to tiny little smart devices. The language is truly everywhere now. Which leaves us with one last, and I think very exciting, question. What are we going to build with it next?